All right, we got a lot I want to talk about. I'm gonna try to do this in one take. But before I start the video, check that out, guys. I'm getting lean. Look at them striations. Getting lean, man. Getting back into shape, you heard me. So, what I want to talk about today is something that I've mentioned very vaguely and very briefly in other videos. I want to specifically talk about the reptilian brain. No, it's not what you guys are thinking. No conspiracy theory shit. I'm talking about the real reptilian brain that's found in reptiles and that's found in human beings. Take a sip of tea real quick. Now, one of the main reasons I advise people not to go to man for knowledge, not to go to institution for knowledge, and I got a whole video talking about this, is because even when an expert in the field means well, they can still accidentally mislead you if what they think is incorrect, right? If their info is inaccurate. And about, 5 years ago, there was a podcast I used to watch, another individual that talks about these things, but I mean, he vanished off the internet. His podcast got taken down, his Facebook got hijacked, and his YouTube channel became dead and inactive. So he disappeared off the internet. And his real life friend that also makes videos, when asked, what happened to this guy, he gives very suspicious answers. But something that he talked about in this podcast was the reptilian brain. And him, along with most literature, says that the reptilian brain is mostly responsible for impulsive decision making, power over others, and self-preservation. And that by itself is not wrong, right? You mostly see this with police officers and soldiers. They're trained to act on their reptilian brain, right? Get control, get power over a situation in a short, impulsive, self-preservation manner. So some fields that humans use, like law enforcement and military, they're mostly trained to use their reptilian brain. And it mostly sounds like a negative thing, but something that I just had a conversation about with somebody 2 days ago is that if you have established that something is natural, the next question has to be why. Okay, why is this a thing? Because the thing about things that are naturally reoccurring, things that are produced in the universe, things that are produced naturally, are things that are needed in the universe. Scientists call this the ecosystem, and religious people, they call this Eden, right? Because all Eden is just a translated word from need, right? The Garden of Eden, the Garden of Need. If you take Eden and you rearrange the letters, you get need. And that's the thought that anything born in the universe has a needed purpose, okay? So, and the main reason that I started to look into this a bit more is because I was doing some research on antisocial personality traits such as sociopathy, psychopathy, and the dark empaths, right? And something that links all of them together is that all of these mental impairments, specifically the anti-personality disorders, all of these are directly linked to the reptilian brain, right? Sociopaths, they're all about control, they're all about impulsive self-preservation. Psychopaths, they're all about control. They're also about self-preservation, but unlike the sociopath, they actually plan things out a little bit more long-term. Narcissists would be closer to psychopaths. And the major difference with them is that they're incapable of ever admitting to being wrong or ever having any flaws. People think that I'm a narcissist, even though this video is basically me admitting that my previous videos talking about the reptilian brain, while again, the self-preservation shit and the impulsive decision making, while that is accurate, I didn't have full understanding as to why humans have that part of the brain in their body, which is what I'm going over. And then you have dark empaths, which is like a combination of all three. So, And I noticed that the linking correlation is that people that have people that have anti-personality disorders, they seem to use their reptilian brain a little bit more. And psychologists and scientists, they came to the conclusion that this is a naturally reoccurring thing. Like psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, and etc. They came to the conclusion that unlike other mental impairments like autism and Down syndrome and shit, which is caused by chemical imbalances in the brain, DNA, and body, the conclusion that Dave came up with is that psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, they're a naturally reoccurring thing in human beings. And, there's a lot of proof. There's a individual that everybody knows, the biggest narcissist that's ever graced humanity, God. God was the biggest recorded narcissist in history. Okay, God was all about control. God was all about you do what I tell you or I'm going to kill you and you're going to go to hell. God was all about you can worship no other God but me. God is the single biggest narcissist that was ever recorded in human history. So it's like, okay, cool. If we're going to go with the conclusion that anti-personality disorder is natural and it reoccurs, the question has to be why, okay? Now, this is the biggest thing that holds people back. When they hear something that makes them feel uncomfortable, okay, women have a reputation for doing this, but it affects men just as much. This is something society doesn't like to admit, that a lot of times men are more emotional than women. You tell a man something that he doesn't want to hear, and this is the thing with regular people in general, right? They let their feelings get in the way of what is true. They let their beliefs get in the way of what is true. And while thinking about why is this a naturally reoccurring thing, this made me a little bit uncomfortable, but I suppressed my emotions to focus on the logic, to focus on the why. Because if something is naturally born in the universe, in order to figure out its need, you have to ask why. So I'm like, okay, these anti-personality disorders, they're clearly using the reptilian brain more. So why is this the case? And to clarify something, right? This is all umbrella terms, but the human brain is made up of 3 sections: the human brain, the mammal brain, the reptilian brain. This is what separates us from animals, because among animals, they usually have either the mammal brain or the reptilian brain. That's the difference between reptiles and humans. People that have a very limited understanding of evolution, they got this relying on Google and Wikipedia and not actually understanding what evolution is, right? Along with elementary school teachers half-ass explaining this shit, so people think that we came from fucking gorillas and shit, but gorillas don't have reptilian brain. So, but whatever. Evolution, that would be an hour-long video in itself. Like, just fucking actually explaining what evolution is and fucking debunking all the bullshit that Google and Wikipedia tells you, as well as elementary school teachers that kind of half-ass explain it and get people thinking that we came from gorillas and shit. That would take an hour and I'm not doing that right now. But basically, what separates human beings from animals is that we have free will. We have the free will to decide if we're going to think with our mammal brain, our reptilian brain, or our human brain. And the human brain is the part of the brain that's responsible for free will decision making. That's what makes us human. Animals, for the most part, they just go with whatever their instincts tell them. That's what makes animals so easy to control. And unfortunately, most humans have been bred since birth to be reduced to the state of an animal. Humans, for the most part, are very emotional, and all you have to do is trigger their emotions, and it makes them very easy to control. People that are intelligent enough to suppress it, to control their emotions and use logical, rational decision making when need be, that is a rare human. Most humans have been bred to be reduced to the state of an animal. And in 2023, most people believe that there's no difference between animals and humans, kind of like they believe there's no difference between a man and a woman. These people can't be helped. Videos like this are to focus on the small percentage of people that can be helped. Getting back to the reptilian brain. So the mammal brain is responsible for, empathy, emotional feeling, and connecting with other beings of the planet. This is why you see dogs and lions and tigers and bears, no pun intended. You see mammals, for the most part, animals and humans, mammals, when they're cubs or when they're babies, from a young age, they display an ability to bond with the world around them, with the creatures around them. They can develop deep friendships. They can develop deep social bonds. You know what I'm saying? And this is the difference between a mammal and a reptile. Well, there's a lot of differences between a mammal and a reptile. But reptiles, while they can build rapport with other creatures, their brains aren't capable of the same level that a mammal would have. So a dog may love you, but a crocodile will not. A crocodile, you can train a crocodile to come to you on command. You can even teach a crocodile tricks, but the second that a crocodile believes that you have fallen below him in the hierarchy, it's gonna attack you. That's the difference between a reptile and a mammal. Now, yeah, if a dog believes that it's above you in the hierarchy, it may stop listening to your commands, but for the most part, it's not going to attack you, like just because you fell below him in its mind, right? That's not the same with a reptile. So getting back to the reptilian brain, and again, humans, we have the free will to think either with our mammal brain or with our reptilian brain. Because again, you have to think, okay, the why. Why do we have this ability? Why can we choose to bond with other creatures or choose to ignore our bonds and think of self-preservation when need be? Okay, why can we trigger this on and off, whereas though animals can't? They're either reptiles or they're mammals, and amphibians are just like a completely different. That would take. I'm sticking strictly to what needs to be talked about here, because I can make this video 3 hours, but I don't want to give people free lunch. But this is something that needs to be talked about because I recently made a breakthrough. So anyways, getting back to sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, dark empaths, the anti-personality humans that focus on the reptilian brain the most. So again, we have to think about the why, right? Why is this a naturally reoccurring thing? And something that I figured out because of an experience that happened to me recently is because humans, we need to be able to halt our feelings. We need to be able to suppress how we feel about people and do what is logic and sound for self-preservation when need be. Let me give you an example. If you're dating somebody and the relationship becomes abusive, the mammal brain is going to want to make you, stay with that person because you love them, because you care about them. But the reptilian brain is going to be like, man, fuck all that shit. You got to get rid of this person. Self-preservation. And as a human being, this is why dogs can get abused and they won't turn on their masters, because they don't have reptilian brain, right? Dogs will stay in that abusive relationship forever because it's all they know. They're not human beings, so all they know is mammal brain. But a reptile, on the other hand, yeah, you can abuse a reptile for a while, but the second you show weakness, it's going to kill you. And that's the difference. You see, humans are above animals. And again, the people that think animals and humans are the same and think we came from gorillas, they're going to be spamming the dislike button. They're going to go gossip on Reddit and Twitter like usual. Oh, look at the crazy shit Chris is saying again. But the people that actually understand what the fuck I'm saying, that actually go out into nature and see the shit with their own eyes, they know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, as a human being, if you're in an abusive relationship, because of your human brain, you have the free will decision making skills to trigger your reptilian brain, say fuck your emotions, fuck how you feel about this person, they're abusing you, you need to get rid of them. Now you got to balance out your reptilian brain a little bit, because I'm not telling anybody to go and break the law. By get rid of them, I don't mean what you guys think. I mean, you can legally break up with the person and, get your stuff out of their house and relocate and, do what you got to do for self-preservation. And the main reason I wanted to make this video is because in the past, I've kind of hinted that like the reptilian brain is negative because, again, it's mostly, the part of your brain that's responsible for impulse control and self-preservation. But this is why I always tell people that good and evil don't exist in nature. Nature and the universe doesn't give a fuck about, good and evil and all that bullshit, because morality is a human invented concept. And what is the origin of morality? A certain narcissist that proclaimed herself to be a god. And, well, I mean, whatever, right? But you gotta, when it comes to true self-preservation, you can't worry about any of that shit. Because some people, because of their morals, they will say you should stick with the person you love forever and you should try to work it out. But the main reason that humans naturally have both reptilian brain and mammal brain is because in life you need a balance of both. Animals aren't capable of both. That's why you have reptiles and that's why you have mammals, right? But as human beings, and when you observe nature, when you look at the ecosystem, reptiles have to be the way they are because reptiles, for the most part, they grow up alone. They live life alone, and they're supposed to be cold-blooded killers. They're supposed to be cold-blooded carnivores. Off the top of my head, I really can't think of too many herbivore reptiles. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure, but I'm not sure though. But most reptiles, they have to be cold-blooded, they have to be impulsive, they have to mostly think about self-preservation because that's how they survive and that's their purpose in the ecosystem. The universe produces animals to eat other animals so that the animals that eat the plants and the fruits and the trees and shit, so their population doesn't get too high. Killers are born to balance them out because everything in the universe operates in balance. So reptiles have to be the way they are because that's their purpose in the ecosystem. Likewise, mammals have to be the way they are because, herbivores and shit, they're vulnerable to predators. So they have to stick together so that just enough of them are born in order to balance out the grazing, to make sure there's not too much grass being produced, to make sure there's not too many fruits being produced, because everything in the universe serves a natural balance. You have to have a balance of berries, of grass, of trees, etc. That's why you have herbivores that eat all the grazing, and you have predators, carnivores that eat the herbivores to balance out the population, and then you have omnivores that eat both, and you have reptiles, you have mammals. That's the ecosystem. Now, people have asked me, what about humans? What purpose do we serve in the ecosystem? And that will require a completely separate video. But talking about humans, the reason we naturally have both is because our purpose in this ecosystem, we need both. We need the mammal brain in order to make sure we don't kill our own children. But again, some people have been reduced to the state of an animal, so they're actually trying to legally fight for the right to kill their own children. It's fucking ridiculous, but the whole reason we have mammal brain and the whole reason we think that animals that look like babies are cute, such as cats and dogs, etc., is because the mammal part in our brain is supposed to trigger something in us that makes it so that we see killing our own children as an unnatural thing. But again, because people have been reduced to the state of an animal and they've been bred to not care about their children, you have billions of people across the world literally fighting for the right to kill their children. And the people that don't kill their children, you notice that most of them don't give a fuck about their children. They neglect their kids and they let the internet raise their kids, right? It is what it is. But we have the mammal part of our brain because we are supposed to think about, family and relationships, etc. That is a part of human society. But we also have the reptilian part of our brain to where a situation no longer favors us. We're able to shut those emotions down and leave that situation to think about self-preservation. And the reason we have human brain, because unlike animals and reptiles, we have free will. Yeah, we can be just like an animal and only listen to our impulses and only listen to what we feel, but the human part of our brain gives us free will to make coherent, logical, sound, and balanced decisions. Sometimes thinking with your emotions is good, especially when it comes to preserving your children. But sometimes thinking with no emotions is good, reptilian brain, because when a situation no longer logically favors you, you have to kill that situation. That's not to say you should kill your children. You should never kill your children. There's permanent and irreversible consequences for that. But if you have some friendships that no longer favor you, but you're staying in those friendships because they emotionally make you feel good, even though they're bringing the rest of your life down, reptilian brain says get rid of them. And by get rid of them, I simply mean leaving the situation. Again, I'm not telling anybody to commit a crime. If you're in a relationship with a girl or a man and it's making you feel good, but logically speaking, that relationship doesn't favor you, reptilian brain says to leave. Self-preservation. It's all about balance. People ask me all the time, what's more important, emotions or logic? You need a balance of both. So the purpose of this video is to kind of retcon a couple of things that I've said before. Because what I said before in terms of the reptilian brain being about self-preservation, impulsive decision-making, and control, that is all true, but you need a balance. Now, the problem with narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths and dark empaths is that they don't have a balance. They seem to naturally understand the importance of reptilian brain, but the main problem that they run into is that they worship reptilian brain, and worship puts you in an unnatural state of mind. See, people that don't have antipersonality disorders, they tend to worship the mammal brain, right? They put too much focus on emotions and feeling good and keeping relationships stable, whereas though people that have anti-personality disorder, they worship reptilian brain, they worship control, they worship self-preservation to the point where it becomes destructive. Because unlike a real reptile, as human beings, you will need to interact with other human beings. This is where the mammal brain comes in, because you will need to learn how to bond and establish a relationship with many different people in your life, rather it be friends, acquaintances, co-workers, etc. Humans need to have that mammal brain in order to interact with other human beings and how to interact with the animal world and the natural world around them. But we also need the reptilian brain to know when to shut those emotions down when the situation no longer favors us long term. So, oh man, I talked a lot. I need some tea. Anyways, this is a more of an advanced video because I really go in detail. I mean, people say I'm anti-science. I just gave you guys more science than any college professor in the world will ever give you. This is the thing about the certified professionals, man. They debate on if humans even have the reptilian brain inside of them. Like, all you have to do is observe nature, okay? Humans are a balanced combination of mammals, reptiles. Humans are a balanced combination of all animals, right? But that's where people get it twisted, because they'll hear that and then they'll mistakenly think that we are animals when we're not. But we have a balance of all of the mechanics that other animals have. We have both the mammal brain and the reptilian brain inside of us, and our human brain allows us to pick and choose which part of the brain we wish to use, because we need a balance of self-preservation as well as emotion, okay? Back in the day, they said that a regular person only uses like 10% of their brain, and geniuses use like 30. You know, people consider that a myth now, but when you observe nature and you see how regular people act, I'd estimate it's less than that, man. I'd estimate that people don't even use 5% of their brains, because the modern human has been bred like cattle to be an animalistic slave. But we're not going to go into that with this video. So the conclusion that I've come up with, right, because I was thinking about this for a couple of weeks, like, okay, if people that have anti-personalities are like, if that's like a naturally reoccurring thing, then why is that? And the conclusion that I've come up with is that the why is because while these people worship reptilian brain, human beings need a balance. We're able to use our free will to turn this part of our brain on and off, and we need to turn it on when situations no longer favor us, right? You know, people ask me, because I be seeing the threads about me, right? Oh, Chris cut his whole family off, man. What's wrong with this guy? No, what's right with this guy? That situation no longer favored me, so I got rid of them. And my life has never been better. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Those that get it, get it. Those that don't probably never will. And if anybody disagrees, I mean, if you guys think that we're animals, if you guys think that I'm full of shit, you know, type it in the comments or see me in a live debate. I'll be looking forward to it. Catch you on the next video.